Welcome to the Red Carpet Movie Review.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Red Carpet Movie Review. And today we're going to review Tom Cruise's latest action flick, The Mummy.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from Hollywood, California, welcome to the Red Carpet Review, starring the Showstopper, Shawn Valentino. This week's special guests, supermodel Maricela Di Montecristo and Aijan League. Today we review The Mummy, live from the red carpet.
Welcome to the Red Carpet. Today we're gonna review The Mummy.
Hey everybody, this is Shawn Valentino, your host on the Red Carpet Movie Review. And today we're going to review the latest Tom Cruise action-adventure movie, The Mummy. You know what? They should have called this one The Dummy, because this movie was just plain stupid. This was one of the very worst action-adventure blockbuster movies I've ever seen. In preparation for this review, I watched some of the Brendan Fraser mummy movies from the late 1990s and 2000s. Those are some really fun, campy action films. They had kind of that adventure vibe, like Indiana Jones, really fun movies to watch. And this movie was absolutely the opposite of fun. I was just bored out of my mind watching this movie. And the irony here is, as the mummy rose, the audience dozed. And to be honest, I don't even know if I was awake or asleep. I probably must have been asleep. So watching this movie in a theater was just like a nightmare. This was just an absolutely awful, awful movie. This might be Tom Cruise's worst movie ever. And that's saying a lot because I absolutely hated the most recent Jack Reacher movie, Never Go Back. And if they're making another mummy movie, I don't think I'm going back because, again, if this is the way the dark universe is starting out, I'd like to be kept in the dark. And I also watched the original Mummy movie starring Boris Karloff. And that was a really interesting movie, had a very slow, somber tone to it. And the Mummy character was very sympathetic, and it really captured the audience's emotion. There was an element of romance to it, there was an element of action and adventure, and there was an atmosphere to it that just really made it a very fascinating picture. And really all of the original Universal action movies had a nice pace to them. They were really interesting films with nice stories. You had classic characters like Dracula, the Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and they were all performed by great actors of the time, and more importantly, they had good screenplays and excellent stories and solid cinematography. And despite the fact that they were made nearly 100 years ago, they seem to have a better emphasis on the tone and the story structure and what these monster movies should really all be about. And that's where this recent Mummy movie absolutely failed. There's no sense of tone, the atmosphere was absolutely awful, the acting was terrible, the screenwriting might have been even worse. I mean, you could have Marlon Brando in his prime, and he probably couldn't even say these words in a convincing manner. It was just horribly written. And this is one of the most disappointing pictures that I've seen in a long time because I was really excited about this shared universe. I was really happy that Universal Studios decided to take these movies seriously. They hired top-notch actors like Javier Bardem, Johnny Depp, and of course, Russell Crowe and Tom Cruise himself. And I've said it many times that Tom Cruise is without a doubt the biggest movie star of his generation. But I'll even take it one step further. I would say from the year 1980 on that Tom Cruise is the world's greatest entertainer. There's been no superstar that's consistently entertained the mass audiences and provided so many pop culture moments like Tom Cruise. And let's start off with the trailer, because if you've seen this trailer, you've really seen the whole movie. And I didn't think the trailers were very good. I thought they were kind of mishmash, they had an uneven tone, and even the look of the movie I didn't really enjoy. But at the same time, I was a little bit excited. There was a beautiful woman here played by Annabelle Wallis, so I was excited to see her. I haven't really seen much of her. I thought the look of the mummy, Sofia Boutella, was just absolutely pitch perfect. I liked the fact that they had a female mummy, which was a change of pace from the original Boris Karloff. So I was really excited. I thought that Universal would have a different take on this classic tale. But sadly, despite having the world's biggest movie star in Tom Cruise and one of the world's greatest actors in Russell Crowe, this movie was just absolutely atrocious. Well, let's start with some of the positives, and I'm really stretching to find anything positive in this movie. But I liked some of the opening scenes in Iraq. I thought they were pretty decent. I liked the look of the film at that point when it was daytime, when you were introduced to Tom Cruise's character. And one of the cool things about this Cruise character is he's very unlikable. He's not playing a traditional all-American hero like we're used to seeing. And I think Tom Cruise is at his best when he's playing a character that's kind of shady, unlikable, almost like a villain or an anti-hero. And let's look back at some of these characters. Lestat from Interview with the Vampire, Frank T.J. Mackey from Magnolia, Vincent from Collateral, Stacey Jacks from Rock of Ages. All magnificent performances, all really cool characters, and Tom Cruise is at his best when he's cocky, he's arrogant, and unlikable. And I really like it when Tom Cruise steps away from playing the traditional action hero, like the Ethan Hunt, like Maverick from Top Gun, which are great characters, and he does it really well. But again, I think Tom Cruise at his best is when he's at his baddest. And this movie, unfortunately, had a very, very bad screenplay. It was written by 6 screenwriters, and you can really tell because it had a very uneven tone. It was a big mishmash. It didn't really know what it wanted to be. It tried to be a horror, it tried to be a comedy, it tried to be an action-adventure film, and it failed at all of them really badly. The only comedy that was here was unintentional. The action was very cliched, there was nothing original going on here. And for a horror movie, I wasn't scared once. They tried some cheap jump scares, and I didn't even jump out of my seat. I mean, I was at the edge of my seat, but unfortunately, it was because I was nearly falling asleep. But despite this awful screenplay, I thought Tom Cruise was charismatic in this role. I thought he made it semi-watchable. I was able to sit through the whole film because of Cruise's charisma, which really never seems to fade. He still looks great. It was interesting because he's in the movie with Russell Crowe, who I believe he's actually older than, but Russell Crowe probably looked old enough to be his dad. I mean, Cruise has played a young-looking action hero for a longer period of time than probably anybody in the history of movies. So I'm still excited about the next Mission Impossible film, but sitting through this movie felt like an impossible mission. And if you haven't seen it, trust me, you should not see this. If you've seen the trailer, again, you've seen the whole movie. And let me go over some of the things that made this movie just so unwatchable. And one of them was the leading lady, played by Annabelle Wallis, who looked lovely, but what a horribly written character. I had no idea what her purpose was in this movie. She had absolutely no chemistry with Tom Cruise. There's supposed to be an element of romance, but there was nothing in this movie that really built up any romance or caring or connection between these two characters. It felt absolutely flat, just terrible. And I was really excited to see Russell Crowe playing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but his performance was absolutely hammy. It was horrible. This might have been one of Russell Crowe's worst performances ever, and that's really, really disappointing because I think he's one of the greatest actors of this generation. If you're going to compare anyone to a modern-day Marlon Brando, it would have to be Russell Crowe. He's given some of the best performances in the history of the movies. Movies like Gladiator, The Beautiful Mind, and unfortunately, here he's really going through the motions, but who could really blame him? Because with this screenplay, I mean, I don't think anybody can convincingly play this character. And one movie that I highly recommend all of you watch is the original Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, played by Spencer Tracy. And that was really an excellent film. It was very well written, had a great sense of tone, had a great storyline, and you really, really cared about that Dr. Jekyll character. And when he turned into Mr. Hyde, you really felt something. But in this movie, when you see Mr. Hyde, it was like 1 second this guy is Dr. Jekyll, the next second he's Mr. Hyde. And there's no build-up, there's no anticipation, and you really don't care. In that supposedly exciting fight sequence between Russell Crowe and Tom Cruise is just one of the most dull, disappointing action sequences in the history of movies. And that's really disappointing because we got a chance to see the Gladiator face off against Ethan Hunt, and it turns out to be one of the most goofy action sequences that I've ever seen. just absolutely awful. But even worse might have been the character played by Jake Johnson, who was supposed to be kind of this comedy sidekick of Tom Cruise in this movie. And I'm not even going to tell you about his quote-unquote character arc because it's absolutely ridiculous. And every time this guy pops on screen, it is one of the most annoying, out-of-place characters I've ever seen in a movie. It looks like he's just stepped out of some 1990s stoner comedy. And unfortunately, the joke was on the movie. The joke was on the audience that spent money to see this movie. And because this character was absolutely atrocious. Hopefully we don't have to see any more of him. Now I'd love to tell you that if you are a little bit stoned yourself in the theater, that it might be semi-enjoyable. But sadly, there's nothing that can make this picture watchable. It was absolutely atrocious. And another disappointing character was the lead character herself, played by Sofia Boutella as the mummy. And sadly, the lead, the mummy herself, was a side character in her own movie. And that's to be expected a little bit because it is a Tom Cruise movie. But I thought Sofia Boutella gave an excellent physical performance in this movie. She had a great look. She's a trained dancer, so she could perform all the acrobatic scenes that this movie required. And she did the best that she could with the limited role that she had. And again, it was difficult for anyone to pull this off, but I thought she was one of the high spots in this movie. And I would like to see more of her in future movies, just hopefully no more mummy movies. And another thing I absolutely hated about this movie was the color tone. And I realize this is supposed to be the dark universe, but did this movie really have to look so dark? I absolutely hated that gray color tone. It looked terrible. It was too muted. It took away all the sense of action and adventure and excitement. And let's go back to those Brendan Fraser mummy movies. Look at the color in those movies. There's a vibrancy of color that really adds to the action and adventure, in the sense that we're watching a sweeping epic, a swashbuckling adventure. And then you watch this mummy, and you just feel that it's some type of hypnotherapy or something, like you're trying to lure the audience to sleep. But worst of all, and this is something that the movie just cannot overcome, again, a horrible screenplay, an absolutely stupid plot, and there's tons of action in this movie. It's almost non-stop action. But I've always thought that the best action movies take the time to slow down and build a great story. Let's go back to movies like Minority Report, and even the original Indiana Jones movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade had a great sense of story to them that really added to the action and the adventure. Because without that story, these action sequences mean absolutely nothing and you're just bored out of your mind. And that's again very disappointing because when I saw that zero gravity sequence in the trailer, I thought, wow, this is the next great Tom Cruise stunt that everybody's going to be talking about. I mean, let's go back to that plane sequence in Rogue Nation, the absolutely unforgettable Burj Khalifa sequence in Ghost Protocol. Some of the greatest stunts in the history of movies. And we're about to see a zero gravity scene starring Tom Cruise in a mummy movie. I was really excited to see that, but the sequence turned out to be very dull and uninspiring. I mean, we pretty much saw the whole sequence in the trailer. And without any context or story to place that action sequence, it was very disappointing. And when you have a beautiful scene like that, you really got to take advantage of it, but they just showed a few short clips. Again, you've seen them all in the trailer. So even that amazing zero gravity scene, which probably took a lot of effort to film, turns out to be very lackluster. But at the same time, it was very symbolic because this movie is one gigantic plane crash. It was a failure on every single level, from screenplay to acting to directing to story to cinematography. I mean, all of it was just absolutely atrocious. This is a terrible movie. You should not see it. And every week we rate our movies on a 5-star scale, and I'm gonna give The Mummy 1 star out of 5. So please avoid this movie. And for Universal Pictures, they plan on launching a dark universe. This universe should be left in the dark because it's off to an absolutely terrible start. Again, The Mummy might be Tom Cruise's worst movie ever. But you're in luck because next week, right here on the red carpet, we're going to be reviewing one of Tom Cruise's best movies, and that is Collateral. Thank you so much for watching. Please click that like button and press subscribe, and we'll see you next week right here on the red carpet. So what did you two beautiful ladies feel about today's review of The Mummy?
Exactly.
So there you have it, folks. Thanks for watching, and be sure to click that like button and press subscribe, and tune in next week on the red carpet.
We'll see you next week on the red carpet.
Thank you for watching the Red Carpet Review. Proceed to click that like button and press subscribe for weekly movie reviews past and present. We'll see you soon on the red carpet.